Good morning and welcome to Wellness RX TV. I'm Greg Nabb. We're doing a lot of different features along with what is happening in the wellness world. We're also touching base with some different people in our community that are part of Ed Ullman's Community Partners Wellness team. Today we're having a conversation with Dr. Judi Ryan, who is a traditional naturopath and is a member of this community who is seeing an uptick in the need and request for natural medicine. Judi, it's a pleasure to sit and talk with you. Great to see you again.
Good to see you.
Now, I met Judi probably 2 or 3 years ago, maybe even 4 now, when I heard that there was going to be a lecture in Windham talking about Lyme's disease. Along with all the things that Judi does, she's become an expert in helping people with Lyme's disease for a particular reason, and we'd like to talk a little bit about that now. It started with a family member, I believe.
Yes, my daughter was 14 and was crippled by Lyme disease. She couldn't walk. She was in excruciating pain. Pain relievers weren't helping. And actually, the first medical practitioner we went to see didn't believe that she had Lyme. And that was a bit discouraging to me. So it launched me into a study of my own to do research on how to naturally help with Lyme, because I didn't have any other option at that point. And so I dove in and read about 6 or 7 books on natural treatments for Lyme disease and began to work with my daughter. And in about 6 months, she was symptom-free. So, and has had no residual issues and side effects.
And Judi, you're not just a woman who has one daughter. You have quite a full house of...
I have 9 children, ages 31 to 9.
Wow.
And 1 granddaughter.
So that started you on a path that has led you to where you are now. You went through the process to become a traditional naturopath and got involved in working with herbs and different ways to treat people in a natural way. Tell us where you went from the research to help your daughter into what is now helping a whole community here on the mountaintop.
Well, it actually goes back further than that. I started getting an interest in herbs and natural health because of my children. And I just wanted something different. I wanted to see them be well more than they were sick, and preventative care. And that launched me into herbal studies. And I had, I would say, an unquenchable hunger for information. And it's still not quenched. I'm still studying and learning. But as it spread from my family, I wanted to help others, my friends and people around me. And it just kind of grew from there. And my heart and desire is to see people enjoy life physically as well as possible, with as little suffering as possible. And it really is my passion and heart, just to help people.
Sounds like you had your hands full. You had 9 children, and then you went on to become educated. How did you find time to do all of that?
The key was consistency. Literally 1 hour a day. I committed myself to 1 hour a day of studies. And I have pretty much done that for almost 20 years now. And I still do that. At least 1 hour a day that I spend on herbal studies. Utilizing that, I also homeschooled my children. I've been homeschooling for 25 years too. So it's new to the rest of the world, but I've been doing it for a long time. So
I think you were the original Energizer Bunny, for sure. That's what it seems. You know, the word herbs is also in the title of your business. Stirred Water Herbs was interesting when we were doing a little research and getting to know you a little bit better through a feature that Angie Fermalino did from our marketing team and creative team. We learned a little bit about that, and I know you and I have talked about it, but a lot of people watching today don't know why you chose the name of your business to be Stirred Water Herbs. Tell us more, please.
So it's actually from the Bible. Stirred water was taken from the book of John, and it was a story about a pool of water that people believe the angels came and stirred up. And if the people were sick, they would try to get into the pool as fast as possible to get healing, and they would get healed if they got into the water. And there was a man who was lame, who couldn't get into the pool, and he never made it in fast enough because he couldn't walk, and no one would help him because everybody else wanted to get into the water. And Jesus came to him and asked him if he wanted to get well. And the man said yes, and so Jesus healed him. And so the story always fascinated me, and I've always had a heart since then, is, kind of saying to people, do you want to get well? And if people have a heart to get well, and sometimes it takes some effort on their part to do what it takes to make that happen, and I'm willing to come alongside and help them, in all regards, spiritually, physically, emotionally, so that's why I'm here.
So you're a doctor, you're a mom, you're a practitioner, you're an herbalist, the list goes on, but you're also a spiritualist. How does that help with sort of the emotional healing and the wellness that you provide here?
Well, I've actually recently finished my level 3 certification as a biblical counselor, and I do free biblical counseling for people as well if they want spiritual counseling to help work through problems and basic issues. Communication, 4 rules of communication: speak the truth in a loving way, keep current in situations, attack problems, not people, act, don't react. 4 simple rules that most people can abide by. They just have to learn how to do it. And that's one of the things that I do.
That reminds me of Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 agreements. There are some similar things there, but you can simplify your life by going down that road. Judi, we could talk more certainly about that, and if anybody wants to know more, we'll get your contact information up so people can contact you directly. Dr. Ryan, at Wellness RX, it starts with Ed Ullman, but he is a blender. He blends Eastern and Western medicine there, so if you had a script from a doctor, he can fill that. Yep. But he also blends a lot of natural products. There's a lot of things he's doing with CBD oil and other things, and he's about ready to launch an online store, which is going to have a lot of these products, and maybe we should talk to you about adding some of it in as another place to sell some of the things that you create here. You're also one who blends. You blend all the things physical, emotional, spiritual. You blend a lot of the products and the way that you treat people. Talk about your balance and blending of maybe Eastern, Western, and everything you've learned going forward to help someone.
I know my weaknesses. I recognize that if there's a need to bring the medical doctors in, I will refer people out. I'll tell them, you need to see a medical doctor for this, or you need to have tests with them for this, or you need blood work. I can't do any of that. I'm not allowed in the state of New York to prescribe medicine, to diagnose someone, or technically treat prescription-wise. So I work with botanical medicine. I can make suggestions or refer, preventative cares, that kind of thing. But I have now several medical doctors that actually refer people to me, and vice versa. I work hand in hand with a couple of medical doctors in the area now, and in certain cases. There's some other avenues. I want to eventually start a free clinic and work hand in hand with some of those practitioners to help people in this community. I see a great need for that.
What does your free clinic look like?
Well, I'm kind of scouting out the Ithaca, New York free clinic run by a group of people. Seven Song is an herbalist there. I've been studying under him for a few years. He's phenomenal in herbal first aid, emergency herbal first aid work, and I've learned tons from him. And in that process, I've just wanted to, kind of do that, start up a free clinic. So I've been looking into it, talking to some people, and hopefully be able to bring that about eventually for our community.
When we put up a slide later on with more information about how to contact you, and there's going to be a part on the Wellness RX website as well. Will there be some information once you finally get the final details on the free clinic so that people can learn more about it from your website, perhaps?
Yeah, eventually when I have that going more, yes.
Okay. That sounds good. Along with the free clinic, we talked about you are a community partner at Almonds at Wellness RX. When it comes time to send someone to someone with naturopathic instincts and education or herbs, he suggests you. How about yourself? Do you have any of your own community partners that you've amassed here in your practice?
Yes. So we bring in thermography. Howard Vicks is a thermographer from up by Albany, and they come in once a month and do thermography appointments here. They set up in my back room, and they do the imaging back there for people. And then
What does that show?
So it's sensing the heat imaging in the body. It senses temperature, symmetry. So the body, like if there's hot on one side, cold on another, it can show hot spots or different areas where there's inflammation within the body, problematic areas. So it can be a great preventative care, especially for breast health. Personally, that's my preference for a breast checkup. Instead of going through a mammogram, I would prefer to do a thermography scan. I think that it's a better way to go and a safer way to go from my perspective. That's just my opinion on that. But yeah, it's really good in helping see different problems, cardiovascular. Sometimes it can pinpoint a problematic area before you recognize it.
With your education and professional path, do you find that when you look at one of those images that it really gives you a deeper look into the person?
It does. It does give me some insight when I go over the reports with people on how to help them a little bit more and how to do preventative care or strengthening of the body in certain areas, bringing down inflammation using certain herbs for inflammatory responses. So, yeah, it definitely helps with that.
One of the things that you've developed here is a whole person's approach to health and wellness. That's probably a huge part of your practice. If anyone goes on your website and looks at the information you ask as an intake to these particular people, you're going to find that you ask a whole lot of questions. Mm-hmm. I'd like to learn a little bit more about your whole person approach to wellness.
Yeah, my intake form covers all of the body systems. So when you see it's about, I think, 8 or 9 pages you have to print out to fill out questions. And I'm looking at history and genetics. I'm looking at, the digestive system, endocrine system, because they all impact one another. And sometimes you can see certain issues that are going to kind of tie things together. Someone has chronic sinus issues and stomach issues and constipation issues, then it's going to tell me the sinus issues might be just because of the constipation issues. So let's work on the bowels. and getting the bowels moving and the body healthy in that area. But that could also be tied to an endocrine issue, which could be a thyroid problem that's undiagnosed or not treated. Therefore, if the thyroid's weak and not functioning, then we have to fix that in order to fix the digestive issues. So it's kind of like all builds on each other.
Dr. Ryan, when you have someone come to visit you for this whole person approach, they come and sit with you for maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours.
Yes.
Versus the 8 to 10 minutes somebody would get with their primary care doctor.
Yes.
There's a big difference there.
There is, and it's great to have that freedom to do that and have the opportunity to really get to know people. I have found that just talking to people can give me information that I need to help them be healthier, and sometimes, and it's sad that medical doctors don't have that opportunity anymore. I feel bad because I know practitioners that really do want to help people, but they're so pressed for time and there's so many restrictions that they don't have that freedom.
Dr. Ryan, another thing that is important to you in your assessment and treatment of your patients is a protocol called hormonal imbalance. If the hormones are not in balance, somebody's going to be very ill or through a form of dis-ease and not doing well. You also involve some testing and laboratory work. This is an important part of your practice, isn't it?
Definitely. Hormone balancing is a big part of what I do. And I do saliva testing. I prefer that to the blood work. The blood work for hormone testing only tests inactive hormone that's bound with a protein and on its way out of the body, whereas saliva testing tends to test more active hormone in the body and what it's doing. And so I prefer that method of testing and more accuracy. I work with ZRT laboratories for that. And it is one of the few testings I'm allowed to do in the state of New York. So that is one of the things that I do. Hormone imbalancing is so important, the endocrine function, and it deals with so many areas, handling stress, which is very important right now. People are really under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, which is creating hormone imbalances, adrenal weaknesses and insufficiencies, panic attacks. These are all hormonally related and can be helped with supplements.
We're just about ready to release. Ed Ullman has been working on a protocol. We're going to actually do a special. We send out newsletters every month, but this is going to be a special report on stress, anxiety, panic attacks, all the rest of that. That's coming up shortly. But what would you do to try to help someone that's having those symptoms? And then when we finish with what you're talking about here, we want to roll into the fact that everybody's worried about the pandemic and also what's going on with COVID-19 and all the rest of it, which, by the way, you had a few months ago. But let's talk about how you would like to help people with stress, anxiety, and panic attacks.
So there's a few things that I do for stress, anxiety, and panic attacks. One is Rescue Remedy candies. They have little gummies and drops. Those work great for just taking the edge off right away. I have my own formula that I've created called Nerve Calm. And Nerve Calm is a combination of herbs. Passion flower, which calms the mind and racing thoughts. Skullcap, which is a nervine relaxant. Marshmallow root, which is an anti-inflammatory, which reduces inflammation in the nerves. And then there's a few others in there. So we're working on relaxing the muscles and with chamomile, so there's this combination to address muscle stress, nerve stress, mind stress, all in one formula. And it's pretty popular. I have a hard time keeping it on the shelf.
A lot of people who have the stress, the anxiety, and the panic attacks are not necessarily your everyday client for natural medicine.
Right.
How do you help those people who need your help so much?
Well, I try to sit down with them and kind of get to the root, and I ask them, what does it mean to you to have anxiety? Describe that for me. And then a lot of times too, I'll customize formulas for them and encourage them through that. There's different aspects to it of how I help. It depends on the person and the need and what they can do. Some people only want capsules, some only want liquids, some want something that's going to work fast. Some people, are willing to change their lifestyle a little bit. Some people aren't. So there's a lot of factors to deal with in that, and it really is customized by the person.
And everybody also wants to know at the end of the day what have been the results during this time frame, and the people that have come to you and trusted in your ability to heal them. The others you may not ever reach. They may all be on the outside saying like, well, that will or won't work. But those people that come to talk about the results that you've had during these incredibly stressful times.
Really good results. People are doing a lot better. They're feeling better. They're being able to cope better with stress. There really hasn't been too many people that I haven't who have come back and said this isn't working, or it's a very small amount of people here and there sporadically that might say this isn't working, where it's a little too overwhelming. I could probably count on one hand in 5 years how many people that is. So most people do get some level of relief or help through what I do with them. It's rare that they don't have something that gets better.
Dr. Ryan, let's talk about your journey with COVID-19 during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. You knew it was coming. You knew some of your clients might get it. You probably didn't necessarily know that you would get it.
Yes.
But you did.
I did.
Tell us about your journey through that. And how did you feel? You were probably proactive. You probably knew that this was coming and some of your clients would get it. So you were probably very well prepared for it when you got it.
Yeah, I was starting to do the research. I knew it was viral. I knew that some of the ways that it acted based on what I had read. So I was kind of preparing myself for it a little bit. And my husband actually got it first. He came down with a fever, and we locked ourselves in our bedroom for 2 weeks by ourselves. And my children prepared food and brought it to us at our door. And then, we did that for 2 weeks. And then my daughter, what herbs do you need, Mom? And she would bring it to me. I had a respiratory formula that I worked with that we took immediately, day one. We had no cough, we had no respiratory issues, and we have no residual respiratory issues, which was phenomenal. He was only ill for about 3 days, not too bad. He was weak for about 2 weeks. So I just kept giving him some supplements for fighting viruses, fighting some detox formulas we were using, and then come to find out I wasn't getting better. So I was sick for about 2.5 weeks with a fever, and we found out that I had a Lyme co-infection at the same time.
Oh, no.
Called ehrlichiosis. And so that's why I wasn't getting better. And I ended up with a rash on my legs and all this. So I was pretty ill. And so once we figured out more of what was going on, I was able to conquer that. And I did end up taking an antibiotic from a medical doctor for 2 weeks because I couldn't get on top of it, because I didn't realize what I was dealing with. Now, if it was someone else, I would know more now of what to do from my own experience. But I didn't take the right thing because I was thinking viral, not bacterial. And here I had this bacteria in my body that was getting ahead of me. So I did take an antibiotic myself for 2 weeks, and then went back to the herbs and was using herbs with them, probiotics and some different things to help it work better and to strengthen my body in the process. And within, a few days after, I came back to life and got a lot better. So.
Well, nobody wants you to get sick, obviously.
Yeah.
But you set up your own laboratory in your office and in your home that will now be something that, thank goodness, you're healed and feeling well, but you can also help others now because of your own and your family's experience.
So the experience with my family, I say that my family, we are great guinea pigs for my learning. I now have 5 out of 9 children that have autoimmune diseases. And that has been huge in my learning and studying about endocrine issues and autoimmune issues and how to work with those. And it's greatly enhanced my knowledge with those things. It's been quite the journey in that regard. And so, in my family, I definitely learn from our experiences. And hormonally, that's also the case. I had a lot of hormonal imbalances and deficiencies when I was in my 30s. And it was just wreaking havoc with me, almost leading to mental health issues. But I was able to bring those back into balance as I studied and learned about hormones.
Well, for you, and I know how much you care about your own patients, they're like your extended family.
Absolutely.
So your extended family wants to know, and everybody on the mountaintop wants to know, that they're saying the weather is getting colder. In fact, it's not even October now as we tape this interview, and it's getting colder. There's frost everywhere. And they're saying that the virus seems to thrive better in colder situations. What are you, as a doctor, and your practice doing looking forward as we go into the colder seasons? Do you feel that COVID could come back stronger, and how are you preparing if you think that that's the case?
I'm not sure that it will. I figured when the kids went back to school and people went back to work, the numbers were going to go up at that point if they were. I haven't really seen that happen. And it is possible that there could be an influx of it again. I don't think anyone really knows at this point. But even with cold and flu season, that could all hit us now too, and people are going to be afraid that it's COVID. So preventative care is very helpful right now in all regards, working on our immune systems. If you have an autoimmune disease, you can't necessarily work on your immune system a regular way. You have to approach it differently with immune modulators instead of stimulators. So there's different ways that people have to approach it.
In your practice, do you spend time with your patients working on preventative measures? Like a lot of times, medicine is reactive. Somebody has a cold or a flu or a fever or something like that. Let's go to the doctor, let's go to the pharmacist, let's do that. How do you want to handle things like that so that people may raise their level of immunity and the virus can't really affect them?
Well, it's kind of funny because I've been very proactive about preventative care, but until COVID, I didn't see people as concerned about it themselves personally. People just wanted to live their lives. They didn't really want to think about it until something bad happened. But now people are thinking about it more than ever. My business has almost doubled since March. It's been crazy. People who never thought about herbal medicine or taking vitamins are now taking them. And so it's been pretty incredible to see. I do have supplements that I recommend, and it's not the typical ones that people are buying up. So I have other directions that I would go with it, based on my own experiences. But I do stock what people want, and what they are comfortable with as well.
What do you credit the doubling of your practice? Is it because people are leaving the cities and moving up here and they're already predisposed to natural medicine, so they're looking for you, and you're like the only game in town now, which was good at one point because people that needed you would find you. Now more people are looking for natural resources, and they're finding that they find you and they're happy to find you.
A small amount are new people from the city. Most of it's just local people that didn't realize I was here until they started looking, which was surprising. There's been a lot of influx of that. And then I've even had people in other states doing searches online. For a while, a lot of businesses and naturopathic offices were closed and they weren't available for their people. I tried to be available. We only shut down the shop for 1 month when we were down, so that we could clean and prevent anyone else from getting it. And then we reopened as soon as we could to get orders out to people and make sure we were available for the needs.
As a mom, a doctor, a herbalist, all of these things, and a spiritualist on top of that, do you think that what is currently going on as an awakening of the mass consciousness is having people more attuned to natural healing processes?
Definitely. I think people are opening, they're more open to it, more receptive, where before they weren't, because there wasn't, for COVID, they don't have anything to help them, and they're really scared, and there's a lot of fear in people right now, and so they're looking for whatever they can do, and they're reading things online, and my advice is don't believe everything you read online. It's not all accurate, and you can actually do some harm to yourself. That's scary to me. People just read it, or they get something in the mail and they're like, oh, let's just do this and let's do lots of it. That can be dangerous. You gotta be careful. You have to talk to somebody that knows. So.
Dr. Ryan, did we miss anything here today? I know this is just a brief opportunity to sit and chat to one of Ed's community partners, but is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like to hit on here as we conclude today?
Well, I am starting to harvest more of my own herbs from my backyard. I'm learning and starting to make a lot of my own tinctures and glycerins. I carry glycerin base, which is a sweet base, which is safe for children and people that don't want alcohol tinctures. I do alcohol tinctures. I'm making liniments now. So I am trying to utilize what grows here. I believe that our seasons and what grows in certain seasons are for a reason, and they're utilized for our bodies and best utilized in those seasons. So I'm implementing some of those things into what I do here, hoping to do more in the future. I love that where my backyard alone is a huge pharmacy, as I see it, and there's so much there that it'll take a lifetime to learn them all.
Well, we know how busy you are. We really appreciate you taking some time, not just for your practice, but for the people on the mountaintop that come to Wellness RX. Would you tell people best how to contact you, please?
So I have a website. It's stirredwater.com, and you can look there for my information. You can call my store. It's 518-929-8228. So that's another way to reach me. My email's on the website. and that's just stirredh2o@gmail.com. So,
Thank you for your time.
all right.
Thanks for spending some time with us today here on Wellness RX TV. I'm Greg Madden. We're going to be doing a lot of these type of segments going farther, not just with practitioners and doctors, but other people in the area and special topics as well. So we thank Judi Ryan, Dr. Judi Ryan, for joining us here today. Her offices are down in Acre, New York, and we really appreciate you joining us here today on Wellness RX TV.